Here we're going to demonstrate the WarriorFit Phase 1 Workout 1. To help us, we have Michael Mercer, owner of Canton Barbell, and he's going to first demonstrate the bench press. So Michael has two dumbbells. You could either use dumbbells or barbell. And as he lays down with his feet firmly planted, you see him going in a nice even cadence, not letting his back raise too much, keeping his hands parallel to his chest. The way to make this harder is to simply increase the weight. The way to make this easier is to either decrease the weight. Another way to make this easier and to account for any kind of pain in the front of the shoulder is the bench press from the ground. Here you can still work your chest without having to have your elbows drop below the shoulder, causing that pain, allowing you to work through that. The next exercise in set 1 is the plank. Here Michael is starting in the push-up position on his hands, and if he wanted to make this a little more challenging, he could go down to his forearms. So here he's keeping his back straight and keeping himself parallel, not letting his back arch too much or his mid-back round too much as well. The way to make this easier is simply by elevating your hands. Here, Michael has his forearms now on an elevated surface. If this is still too hard, then you could just make the surface higher. You also could do this same variation from your hands in the push-up plank. The way to make this harder is from the normal plank position. Michael is now going to raise one arm, and he would alternate that back and forth, or he would lift one leg. Back and forth. This variation can be done either from the push-up plank position like Michael's doing it, or from the forearms. For set 2 of day 1, first we have the push-up. So again, Mike's in that good plank position that he was in for the plank itself. And now he's going up and down, keeping himself in that plank position, not letting his elbows flare too wide, holding stable. The way to make this easier is the same as the plank, is that now we're elevating our hands, and now Mike is trying to keep in that exact same good plank position, not letting his back arch, not letting his mid-back area round. The way to make this harder is you can simply add a pause at the bottom of your push-up, or instead of that, you can add an arm variation at the top. The second exercise in set 2 is the 3-point row. So we see Mike supporting himself with his arm and his knee on a bench as he brings the weight up to his chest. See how he's not letting his shoulder roll forward. Also see how he's not arching his back, stabilizing actively just as he did in the good plank position. Of course, we could make this harder simply by adding more weight. The way to make this easier is we're going to do a standing row instead. So we see Mike is using the same technique as he did with the 3-point row, pulling his arms to his chest, not letting his back round or his lumbar arch as he completes the motion, not letting his shoulders roll forward. The third exercise in set 2 is the serratus punch. You see Michael demonstrating it. Look how not only is he going up, like to the level of his eyes, but then also he's coming around his chest a little bit towards his forehead. So now he set the cable about belly button height, and now he's going to perform that same action, but now with the weight. He's really emphasizing the motion of his shoulder blade, and then the control back, not letting that band, not letting the cable just pull his shoulder back. Also, he's being stiff in his abs to make sure his back isn't moving. The way to make this easier is instead of using the cable weights, now we're going to support the weight of the arms on a wall as now Michael elevates, uses those same muscles to push his arms up the walls using his shoulder blades. So you see that he goes up all the way, and then he keeps his shoulders up as his arms come down first, all the way down to the bottom, repeating that motion, really emphasizing the full motion allows him to get that activation. The way to make this harder would be simply to return to the cable machine and add more weight. For the fourth exercise in this group, Michael is demonstrating shoulder external rotation. So as always, he's keeping his back in a nice neutral position as he isolates the motion to rotation of the shoulder, pulling all the way, pausing, and then back down. The way you would make this easier, you would do this at the wall with no band, and when you reach that top position, you would hold your arm against the wall. The way to make the shoulder rotation harder is now we're going to do what's called a face pull. So now Michael has two bands in his hand, and he's first going to squeeze his shoulder blades together before then rotating his arms up and then doing that same two motions in reverse on the way back. Same thing, he's making sure that that motion isn't coming from his low back or he isn't compensating by rotating one way or the other as he's pulling the bands. For set number 3, first we have the speed squat and row. Here you see Mike going into a good squat and also getting full extension on the row. You see that the timing of the row occurs at the same time as the squat. As comfortable as you feel with this exercise, you can increase the speed to get your heart rate up. The next exercise is the med ball chest pass or tap. Here you see Michael set up in front of a sturdy structure with a medicine ball, and now he's going to throw that against that structure that he's standing in front of. You see him keeping a good squat position, athletic position, feet apart, keeping his abdominals engaged as he's putting enough force into the ball to send it straight at the structure and then right back to him. The last exercise in day 1 of this third set is the squat thrust. So we see Michael lining up. He's going to jump down into a plank, keeping himself in a good plank position, bringing his feet back underneath him, as then he jumps to finish.